First and foremost, Mr. Heller, thank you for having us in your home. We're here with Steelo Magazine today, giving you the interview. First question I wanted to ask is, you graduated from business in 1963, correct?
I actually went to Ohio University,
Okay.
which is about 70 miles south of Ohio State, and I went there from 58 through 60. And then I came out and graduated from USC, and then went to the Graduate School of Business at USC. And I think I graduated there in February of '63, I think.
Since you were a graduate of business, you started off with a co-star as associate booking and travel, and then you later moved on to Heller and Fisher. Our records show that you went to gross from 1.9 million. You progressed through 3.7 million, and the following was 5.8. As a business person, how did you manage to start off with such a high income?
So I started off in rock and roll in the beginning of rock and roll in the mid '60s. I was an agent, and in those days, most of the really successful people in our business started off as agents then. After that, it became A&R guys like Jimmy Iovine and things like guys like that. But when I started off, David Geffen, myself, Irving Azoff, Tom Ross, we all started off as agents. So when I got out of USC graduate school, I think I went to work for $425 a month. So in around '66, I was in San Francisco, and I went in to see a group called the Gollywogs. And I loved them, and I told them they had to change their name, and they changed it to Creedence Clearwater Revival. So I started off basically in the mid '60s with the Grassroots and Creedence Clearwater. A guy named Lee Michaels, who was a huge West Coast star, sold out 3 nights at the Forum without ever having a record out. In 1969, I brought Elton John to this country and opened him at the Troubadour. And then right after his tour, I brought Pink Floyd here and did their tour. And then Don Fischel and I started our own agency early in 1970. We had Journey and Styx, REO Speedwagon, Crosby Nash acoustic tour, Boz Scaggs, Marvin Gaye, Van Morrison, Joan Armatrading, Four Tops, Sergio Mendes, Jose Feliciano. So we were very, very successful. I went through a divorce in 1982 and moved from Beverly Hills. I moved out to the Valley and stayed with my parents for a while, and was very disenchanted with the music business. Music business is the only win-win business that I've ever seen. In any other business, the more you make, the less someone else makes. That's not true in the music business. In the music business, the more the artist makes, the more the manager makes, the more the agent makes, the more everybody makes. The publicist, the lawyer, everybody makes more. So it's basically intrinsically a win-win business. I heard about a little scene that was happening over in Old Hollywood at a pressing plant called Macola. So it took me about 3 months to get over there because I wasn't real interested in what was happening. Ironically, the album which I consider probably the second most important album of the 20th century, Sgt. Pepper, had set the bar so impossibly high for everybody else that records started costing too much money. So instead of the music being the important thing, the only thing that started to matter was the guys that got the music on the radio. So guys like Joe Iskro and Fred DeCipio and the Scotti Brothers, they became the important people in the music business rather than the people that made the music. So finally I got over, probably sometime in early 1986, I got over to Macola, and for $1,000 there you could press 500 records, and they did all the artwork, and they would send the records out to people that did what they did. There was another half a dozen pressing plants all over the country. So pressing at McColl in those days were MC Hammer, Ice-T, Timex Social Club, World Class Wrecking Crew, Rodney O and Joe Cooley, Egyptian Lover, CIA, Bobby Jimmy and the Critters. All these people were pressing at McColl. So now things changed because it was costing so little to press vinyl, and it was costing so little to make a record. So guys were making records in their mother's garages for $200 using machines that they bought at Toys R Us. So it started to change the focus of the music business back to the music. So I once again became interested in that. And at McColla, I started representing the LA Dream Team and JJ Fad, Rodney O and Joe Cooley, the Egyptian Lover, World Class Wrecking Crew, and CIA. So I was off to a big start there. So sometime during that period, Alonzo Williams, who was the leader of Crew Cut Records and the head of the World Class Wrecking Crew, kept telling me about this guy that wanted to meet me named Eric Wright. And I said, what's he do? He said, well, he's a drug dealer, got a lot of money, and this and that. I said, yeah, I'm not really interested. I said, I'm doing fine, and, you know, RICO is just coming into effect then. And I said, look, I'm not interested in getting involved with, I've never been interested in getting involved with illegal kind of people. So finally, after 3 months of bugging me, I used to go down to his club at night called Eve After Dark. And Alonzo, who gets very little credit, was really one of the most important guys in the early days of West Coast rap. So I'd go down to his club called Eve After Dark, and he kept bugging me and bugging me. Dre was the DJ there with Yella, and he kept bugging me. You got to meet this guy, you got to meet this guy. He offered me $750 to meet you, and I could use the money. So I said, okay, I'll be at McColla on Tuesday at 2:30 in the afternoon. Why don't you have him come over? So that was March 3rd of 1987, and this kid drives up in a Suzuki Samurai all tricked out, and he gets out and he was looking really cool. He reached down in his sock, pulled out a roll of money, paid Alonzo the $750, and I said, have you got something you want to play for me? And he didn't say a word, man. And in our business, you know, the music business is a bullshit business, man. I got this group, and I got this girl, and this guy's the greatest, and it's all hype. He didn't say a word. He just handed me a cassette to listen to, and I heard Boys in the Hood. And I thought it was the most important music that I had heard since 1965. It was a combination of the lyrics of Gil Scott-Heron, the rebellion of the Rolling Stones, and the anger and angst of our inner communities of the Black Panthers. So I said, wait a second now, I'm an almost middle-aged white guy. I said, if I can relate to this, I said, now for the first time maybe, you know, we're going to have some urban music that people like me are going to be able to relate to. It's not just going to be swap meets and malls. Now we're going to have people in Minnesota and Kansas and Nebraska who have never listened to rap music. All of a sudden, they'll be interested. So I listened to Boys in the Hood. I loved it. He played me a couple other songs that I loved. Still hadn't said a word. And then I said to him, what do you call this group? And he said, NWA. And I said, what's that stand for? No whites allowed? And he said, no, man. And he played Straight Outta Compton for me. Straight Outta Compton, crazy motherfucker named Ice Cube in a band called Niggers with Attitude. And I said, whoa, this is an important moment in the history of the music business. I mean, this is something special. So I knew that the music was there. So there's a couple of different aspects of breaking an act. You got to have great music, and you got to have great marketing, and you got to have airplay. And so he had taken that aspect out of the equation for me. I knew that the music was good. I didn't have to do anything. He had already done that. The music was important. It was great. It was melodic, which East Coast rap wasn't. It had a sense of humor. My problem became a marketing problem. So I said, well, what am I going to do here? You know, how am I going to get middle-class America to listen to this music? So I went down and spent a couple of months in Huntington Beach, which I considered the cutting edge of what was happening in America. You had skaters and surfers, and they've always been on the cutting edge. And they had these big speakers mounted in the back of their trucks, and I listened to what they listened to. And you know what they listened to, man? Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. Metallica, Suicidal Tendencies. That's what they listened to. And I said, wait, hold on, man. Anybody of those 30 million people that bought Appetite for Destruction, they're going to buy Straight Outta Compton. So if you look at anything that any of those groups did between 87 and 91, you'll see they're wearing Compton caps and wearing their caps backwards, and, you know, Compton t-shirts and Kings and Raiders stuff. You know, they copied NWA.